we're going to be reacting to Angel at My Tape. I thought, I'm already loving the use of the soundtrack. Hog Wild. I'm not asking for chubbies like me to be in every single film.
She's drowned.
Yeah.
Who would wish to die? I like to study while I eat.
Girl.
Everything's selling. I'm going to be lighter.
Okay, she's at the psychiatric ward.
I've got schizophrenia.
What? Oh no.
You've won the human church.
End of part 2. You may go to France for me, haha, the wooing oot. Duncan Gray.
Time and chance about a tide, ha ha, the wooing on. Slighted love is said to bide, ha ha.
I actually wonder how closely all of this was shot together. And look, bringing back young Janet Frame. It's just reintroducing all of the really warm color palette. I asked how closely all of this was shot together because it seemed like such a different palette from what we saw in the last episode.
Hello, I'm Janet Frame. I wrote and reserved a room.
Frame? No, no frame.
But I wrote.
No, we've had no letter from you.
But I'm all the way from New Zealand.
We have guests staying here from all over the world.
Oh, there's no place like London. I feel home again.
We had a woman die of pneumonia in one of these rooms. That one. So, what you doing in London, Janet?
Oh, I'm here on a literary grant, but I'm not going to stay in London for very long. I'm going to go to Spain.
You're not going on your own.
You'll get a rate.
Well, you'll be in danger in a foreign place like that, Janet.
Yeah.
By the way, are you fancy free?
What does that mean?
Then watch out for the blacks. They're everywhere in London.
I don't think that someone should be referred to by the colour of their skin.
Something that perhaps isn't as developed in this biopic is Frame's relationship to the Maori and indigenous people of New Zealand.
So, what do you write, Janet?
Oh, poetry and fiction. And short stories.
That dude
and
looks
I've
like
written a novel.
Have you had anything published?
one of the
Which one is it?
competitors in Ink
no.
Master.
The short stories are in a book.
A book?
The novel's been published.
Oh no, published.
Well done, Janet. That's excellent.
I do wonder how far apart these were shot. There's like very, very different, I don't know, lighting decisions.
Oh, yeah, Katie described your hair. There's room free. Okay. See you around.
We don't give it enough credit now, but the prospect of traveling around alone as and coming from such a small nation like New Zealand, this must have been this required incredible resolve on the part of Frame. Like back in the 1940s or 50s.
Who didst waken from his summer dreams, the blue Mediterranean where he lay, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers, quivering within the waves' intenser day.
Madrid? Barcelona? Valencia?
Hello again.
Bocadillos.
What was she like, anyway?
Hello. Bye-bye.
Is everybody just absolutely a complete jerk to her?
That's the woman. Remember the one I met from the ferry the other day? It's remarkable. I didn't think there were people like that. No. She's very, very nervous.
Her hair has cleaned up a lot since childhood. A lot. And again, re-traumatizing her to the deaths of her sisters in childhood. If you want to live your best life, you've got to go to another country.
You've got to go to another country if you want to get to Giovanni's Road.
Hay un americano con muchísimo equipaje. Corre, un americano
American?
en la casa, un americano, corre.
Of
I
course,
felt
the
sick with
Guernica.
disappointment and a sense of betrayal, for I believed I had rented the entire house, not to be shared with a foreigner who spoke English.
Where'd you get your money changed, Janet?
At the bank.
All of it. Shouldn't have done that.
All these people
I get my American scholarship money changed.
just
in
fucking
Andorra.
dispensing
money
free
market is.
advice. I don't understand.
Cheap money.
Unsolicited advice. It's like a YouTube comment section.
She sleeps in this bed.
Tienes que hacer
Oh,
algo.
americanos, qué desgracia.
Tienes que hacer algo.
Thank God you're not like her.
Ladies, shut the fuck up.
I longed to be as full of secrets as she seemed to be, that would prompt a man to discover them. But for so long I had blocked all exits and entrances that I felt I was as sexless as a block of wood.
Hello, Bernard.
It's Bernard's birthday. Would you like to join us for a glass of wine?
Oh, no, thank you, Edwin. I was just going.
Hey, I'd like you to.
Was she back in episode 2 chewing on that chalk because of her schizophrenia? Is that what's causing her, partially what was causing her dental issues? You gotta look up this stuff about schizophrenia.
Janet. Hi. Morning.
Janet's like her like circle.
So,
Her like
wanna
private
go
space
walking?
is like
I'll tell you one thing, I could not work this morning.
What work do you do?
Well, back home I work as a history professor. But I'm really a poet.
Poet.
just a couple of nerds fucking. You love to see it.
I have to go.
Yeah, I know.
Just a reminder, destigmatize that schizophrenics deserve love too, and deserve sex too. Just a couple of nerds fucking. Absolutely lovely. What more could you want? With your love, what more could I need?
Just let me read you this first, okay?
Okay.
I wrote it this morning.
Sure.
You know that time just after
I didn't know I
waking
was gonna have to be your
It's not
editor.
my most creative. Heart-holding hills of Ohio, where memory stretches like miles and spring renews its promise like the first spoken word.
He's no Stevens.
Do you like it?
Let's continue doing the
Must be
sexy
lovely.
stuff.
Spring in Ohio.
Better than summertime in Ohio.
As a summer in Ohio.
Did you like Blue Domed?
Oh, beautiful. Do it again.
Will not be dispensing any editorial advice at this time.
El americano. Mucho dinero. No sé.
Everybody's got something to say about the choices that Janet Frame makes in her life. Can you please get out of this woman's business?
I haven't heard your typewriter for weeks. You're not writing, are you?
I'm taking a break.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Of course I do.
Literally every single person has something to say about the decisions this woman makes in her own personal life. This is a dream life, I gotta say.
Well, I guess this is my last week.
Okay, bye. Bye. It was lovely having you.
Oh, come on. You knew I was going.
No.
Well, I have
No.
to get back, prepare for
Never
next
get
term
over
and
how many
so on.
syllables
God knows I don't
Kiwi
wanna go.
people manage to put in the word no.
I've had a great summer. I really mean that.
Francesca, Senorita Janetta, is she home? Hasta en casa?
Janet? Janet? You there? The
ferry goes at midday, yeah.
Janet? I'd really like to say goodbye.
True romance indeed. So much for poetry and music. I was beginning to suspect that I might be pregnant.
You don't want to spend your time writing. There's no money in it. It's all right for a holiday. But not now.
Dude, shut the hell up.
Not for permanent.
Please stop talking.
Although I had not wanted the baby, I had sometimes imagined a boy with Bernard's laugh, or a girl with his eyes.
So nice to have a mature applicant. We have so many young ones. Any major illnesses?
No.
Well, you should disclose.
Operations?
No.
Well...
Psychiatric treatment?
Yes. I spent some time in hospital in New Zealand.
How long is some time?
8 years.
Hey!
How could you possibly think of being a nurse?
Got better.
What was the diagnosis?
Schizophrenia.
I'm sorry. No,
Wow.
it's out of the question.
Just a little bit more bedside manner, please.
I felt as if all the griefs I'd ever known were beginning to surface within me. In fear and despair for my life, I needed answers to the questions I still asked myself about my history. I knew that talk of suicide must always be taken seriously. Such talk came readily to me as a shortcut to ensure action.
Oh, wow.
I was admitted as a voluntary patient.
This just goes dark.
Finally, it was concluded that I'd never suffered from schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
At first, the truth seemed more terrifying than the lie. How could I now ask for help when there was nothing wrong with me?
Oh, wow.
Have you read it?
Yes, I have. And I'm sure that getting that time out of your system will be good for you. Have you thought of getting an agent?
Oh, I already have one.
What did he say?
I wanted you to read it first.
That's good. Now I have. Take it to him, get his opinion.
I'm going to meet my publisher tomorrow.
Ooh. Why don't I make a hair appointment for you?
Oh, no. Nothing works. I've tried.
Why? Everybody's just dispensing
I'm sure they could do something with it.
stupid friggin' words of wisdom for her.
Bestseller. Bestseller. Study them. They'll give you the form. I'll make you an offer. I'll give you an apartment.
Give me.
Yes, I'd like you to write your next book in there. Also, I've got some people who'd like to meet you.
No, that's actually worse. Don't
forget.
say that.
Janet's in our Knightsbridge apartment at the moment, writing her new book.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Dear Janet, I wish there was a way to break this news more gently.
Somebody else in your life
Dad
has
is
died.
dead. He was cycling to work on the North Road when he collapsed and died later in hospital.
He also fell into a water source. What is it? Your old poetry? I don't remember her wearing those shoes at all. You've come a long way. I'm happy for you, girl.
Sorry to disturb you. We wanted to beat the Dunedin papers to it.
To what?
Your story.
She's finally getting her picture
We
taken.
have one sitting, Miss Frame.
Sitting. Like this?
It's good.
And do the twist. Another 6 Degrees of Separation. This song is featured in a pivotal scene of Mad Men, which stars Elizabeth Moss, who's featured in, who starred in Jane Campion's Top of the Lake. Yeah, do it. Yeah. We love an ending with a little bit of a dance. If this was some, like, Bohemian Rhapsody moment, I'll scream. If Twist somehow figures into her, like...
Hush, hush. The grass, and the wind, and the fur, and the sea the same. Hush. Hush. Hush.
So, I think, if anything, I had probably, applied the wrong framing to this. Usually in the case of a biopic, the simplest answer of what its artistic aims are, or the appeal that it has to an audience, is that it features a virtuoso performance. And I think this features a virtuoso performance, quite evidently. Kerry Fox, in portraying Janet Frame, you know, talk about, like, Jenna Rollins and Ellen Bernstein in comparison to this performance. I think that's good company to keep. And yeah, while not necessarily as revelatory in 2021, it does offer a very kind of like deep portrait of neuroticism and a certain kind of neuroticism and depression and anxiety that, well, I don't know. I want to say, like, it's not often allowed to be portrayed by women on screen. I think this is an archetype that's played, but this was done with nuance and subtlety and kind of compassion. Yeah, I think Campion and Fox did a great job with a kind of like a gargantuan undertaking. This is far from my favorite Campion work, but it was an interesting watch. Now I'm pretty excited to watch Power of the Dog and see how that turns out. So yeah, that was An Angel at My Table. If you enjoyed this, click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. Leave a comment down below what you might be interested in watching next time. And until next time, keep watching good movies. Come on, baby, let's do the twist.
Amongst other things, I think it's really also a portrait of loneliness and someone who is really a loner, an artist coming to terms with their life, with how their life is going to be led, and it not going to be a typical life, not somebody who gets married, has children. It's someone who's going to be living in a completely different way than most people. Actually, only recently, as I've got older, do I really feel that I've understood what Janet was really trying to do in this last episode. She was talking about something that feels really familiar to me now, but I couldn't really understand at the time, which is the idea of the imagination being in such a real other world, a world of complete projection.
Hey, it's me again. I'm back. I just had a couple of thoughts. I just wanted to go over a couple of thoughts I had in the intervening weeks, months, since I actually watched An Angel at My Table. So, like many films, my response was just a little bit muted upon completing it for the first time. And the time since then, I've had the opportunity to sit in some of the images and just think about the overall feelings and effect the film had on me, and just some things that I want to touch on since then. One of the things that I found really interesting was listening to the commentary by director Jane Campion and cinematographer Stuart Dryberg after watching the movie. It kind of elucidated a lot of points of interest for them in taking on the project and struggles they had. Something that Campion talked about that seemed really simple after hearing it, but that I was having some challenges over and watching the movie was what exactly about the subject inspired her, or what made her take an interest in Janet Frame. And the simple answer is she read her works as a kid and as a teenager and resonated deeply with her artistic vision and her personal life. I didn't really know this about Campion, but in addition to growing up in New Zealand and having a lot of the same frames of reference as Janet Frame, geographically speaking, Campion also cared for a mother who suffered from long-term depression and received various psychiatric treatments for her conditions, and actually had to care for her mother through a lot of these things. And so she actually talks very frankly in the commentary about a lot of her struggles with caring for a loved one. Alongside that, something that Campion kind of touched upon that I kind of see more in her work is, I don't know how to describe it, but something that I that resonated with me about the work, and that I think comes to represent somewhat a worldview of Campion's, is this idea of the artist in solitude. The artist or the individual as a person who needs to find a private place for themselves. For me, one of the most powerful things about An Angel at My Table is that Janet Frame goes through all of these incredible tragedies in her life and maintains this kind of artistic spirit, artistic openness and empathy and ability to see light and wonder in the world. And despite this, it's actually very difficult for her to form meaningful and long-lasting relationships. I think by the end of the movie, she doesn't have any long-standing relationships besides perhaps a few family members. And even by the end of the film, almost every single named family member she has, with exception to her brother, has passed away. And she lives alone in a caravan. Campion says that she has a real love of this kind of caravan culture, and that in her adulthood she has purchased a trailer for herself and gone out into seclusion and discovered herself and discovered her work in those kind of Thoreauian departures. And you see that kind of archetype play out in some of her films, literally in Top of the Lake and An Angel at My Table, and in some subtle iterations in The Piano, in Power of the Dog, in Holy Smoke. And I think it's a very kind of powerful and maybe bleak, but I think realistic statement to make, that the artist or individual, as Jane Campion imagines it, a true soul, is imperfect in forming relationships with other people, and sometimes is either ostracized or must kind of willingly excuse themselves from society in order to discover their true identity. And this kind of idea of solitude, it's frankly upsetting to me as somebody who responds to this idea of an artist. It's frankly kind of chilling to me, the idea that you could live the rest of your life, the rest of your kind of artistic life, in solitude, and need that solitude in order to sustain your work, and that it might be true. I don't know. It's an idea I have to reconcile myself with. So yeah, I still don't think that An Angel at My Table is like my favorite Campion work, but having some time to kind of sit with it, I really, really resonated with the images of hope and openness that Janet Frame displays despite everything. And within that, even still, within that persistence, the solitude she feels. I find something in that really recognizable. So yeah, that was An Angel at My Table. It's been, I think, 2 or 3 months since I watched it, and my feelings of affection for this character have only increased in that time. She's witty, she's open, she's in some weird ways complicit to her own incarceration and her own issues and follies, and who amongst us cannot say that we're not the same? And I also read an interesting kind of conjecture about the real-life Janet Frame, that she, while she was misdiagnosed with schizophrenia, she might have been on the autism spectrum, which was a really interesting thing to read. It was really humanizing. Yeah, that was An Angel at My Table. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something in it that might be of interest to you, might make you want to check out that movie or some of Jane Campion's other work. Jane Campion is a favorite of mine, and while I'd say I only like really respond to like half of her work, there's still so much to find in all of it, and such a rich, varied kind of tapestry, and I hope you take a look and find something that resonates with you. Okay, I'll see you next time, and until then, keep watching good movies.